and welcome to Measure of Success Outdoors, Deer Season 2018, Episode 2. This week, we'll show you some clips from our hunts that we've had since opening day when we were able to harvest the split G2 buck. While we were unsuccessful in our most recent hunts, we want to show you what we're doing out in the woods, and we also don't want you guys to get the impression that we go out and get the buck that we're after all the time. And then after that, we'll cover some encounters of the split G2 buck from last year on the specific properties that we had access to hunt. And then we'll talk about how we prepared and improved those properties to help our success with the split G2 buck and other bucks that are hanging out in the area this year. And then on the next episode, episode number 3, we'll boil it down to specifically how we patterned the split G2 buck, what the stand setup was, and why it was there, and ultimately why we believe we were able to be successful. So look out for that in episode 3. And in the meantime, here are the clips from the recent hunts.
So this is my first morning in the shooter seat. Last week I was filming for Nick when he shot that big buck. It was split G2. We're on the other side of the property, a little public section that I had to work my way into. And we got another big buck we call Big Tex. It looks like he's a mainframe 8, really tall, really wide. Huge body on him. And we're going to see if we can catch him coming across the road and coming through this little sliver of woods that I'm allowed to hunt on. And we'll see how Nick does. I had a challenge last week filming that big buck, just with all the foliage and trying to get good focus for you guys. But we'll see how Nick does with his first time behind the camera on a hunt. So hang in there, let's see what happens.
As you can see, we've been out a couple times, but mostly had encounters with does and fawns and one adventurous raccoon. So now, we'll move on and start talking about our encounters with the split G2 buck from last year. This property is actually divided into what we call the north property and the south property. Last year we only had permission to hunt the north property, so all of our encounters were on the north end of the property. While we only showed you one encounter with a split G2 buck from last year, I actually had 3. But I was too lazy to take the camera and self-film on the other 2 days. The first one was actually on opening day and I had him at 24 yards. But I was unable to get a shot. The reason behind that is I was lazy again and didn't take my climber with me, and I actually just sat on the ground with a crossbow and he pegged me before I was able to get a shot at him. So lesson learned. And then the second encounter was in the same block of timber, but he was chasing does, and the doe that he chose to chase didn't come by the tree stand. So he was pretty visible last year, and headed into this year we were really excited. So after having several encounters last year on the north end of the property, we knew that the bucks weren't bedding there. So we had a gut feeling that they were bedding on the south end of the property, which is actually owned by the same property owner, but we didn't have permission to hunt last year. But the property owner did give us permission to go in and scout. Through our scouting, we learned that the bucks were bedding in the blue circle on the end of this point, especially with an east wind. And they were using that east wind to smell anything coming from the east side over in the main part of town. and they were bedding on that point and being able to look out into that other subdivision and see anything coming. So what we decided to do to make this more of a sanctuary is we decided to go ahead and put in a food plot and try to help give them one less reason to leave that piece of property. So as you can see, we were able to get some equipment in there and till up the soil pretty good. This food plot we actually put on a power line cut that cut through the center of this property adjacent to the bedding area. And we went with clover and rape because we wanted something that was going to be palatable from the beginning of deer season pretty much all the way through Thanksgiving, which is when the hunting pressure dies down. So we put that down in here. And as you can see, we had some help from Brent's son Hayes as he covered the seed with the rake. We put that food plot adjacent to the bedding area, hoping that we could keep these deer located on this piece of private property and not get out to some of the public property. So later this summer, we put that food plot in back in March, and later this summer, we went back in and we did some mowing and cutting, and we did it the cheap man's way. We used a weed eater.
All right, so what we've got here is we've got a property that we're managing. We don't have permission to hunt it, but they're letting us put in some plots and manage it, kind of give these deer a refuge, so to say, here in town. We are hunting the property adjacent to it, but as you can see behind me, Brent is working on knocking the weeds down in this plot. We're going to get our camera up. It's about the 1st of August. We will have permission to hunt this property in the future, so we're going to put some cameras up and see if we can figure out what the deer are doing. This is really one of those things where we're going to put cameras up now here the 1st of August, let them run all fall, and then check them after the fall to see how the deer are using this particular property. But what we're doing right now is trying to create a sanctuary to keep the deer here and not traveling around some of this public ground that's adjacent to it and getting harvested with some of that hunting pressure. So stay tuned. We're going to knock these weeds down, get the camera up, and get out of here. Let the deer have this place back all to themselves.
So we actually backed out of there after we got the camera up. The camera's noted with a red X. And with the south property taken care of, and really the sanctuary created, we turned our attention to the north end of the property. And what the struggle was with the north end of the property this year was actually a lack of acorns, which is the main food source up there. So we decided to go in and go ahead and put a food plot in there to help supplement the food. And as you can see here in the next few pictures, we actually went old school and used a logging road and just used a leaf blower and blew the leaves off.
All right. We just had a little bit of rain today. And we're going to go in here. As you can see, it's actually getting really dark. It's a little after 7. Put the little guy to bed. Had to read to him. Now we're going to go in here, plant us a little food plot, get some seed on the ground. We got our throw and grow and our T-Raptor from Evolved Harvest. We're going to get it in there and get it in the ground.
So like I said in the video, we planted that food plot in the dark actually because we had parental duties that we were responsible for. We put up the camera and we headed out. So the food plots are in and the cameras are up. Now it's time to let the pictures collect over a couple months. Do our very best to manage our excitement and not check cameras every day so that we can keep human sin out of there. And when we do pull the pictures off of the camera in a couple months, it's time to see if we can start piecing together the puzzle and see if we can get a pattern on any of these mature bucks. And that's where we'll pick up in episode 3 on how we were able to pattern the split G2 buck. So I hope you enjoyed episode 2. If you did, give us a like and a subscribe, or check us out on Instagram at MOS Outdoors, or go to our Facebook page, Measure of Success Outdoors.